Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2019 National Western Stock Show and the Junior Market Goat Showmanship. This is subclass A. We have 2 classes of juniors, 3 classes of intermediates, and 2 classes of seniors. Our judge for the day is Steve Sturts from San Angelo, Texas. Steve went to Hawkeye Tech in Waterloo, Iowa. He judged livestock and was a university herdsman for the sheep flock. He received an associate in animal science and furthered his education at Tarleton State University. He was involved in 4-H and enjoyed showing sheep. Steve and his wife Bridget reside in San Angelo and have 6 children who have all been raised in the 4-H program and participated showing sheep and or goats. Steve was an extension agent for agricultural and natural resources for 15 years. He now owns and runs Sturts Show Goats and Stock Dogs and Sturts Reproduction Services in San Angelo, Texas. Steve is superintendent of Tom Green County Livestock Association and is a livestock mentor for 4-H and FFA members in Tom Green County. Steve enjoys all aspects of the livestock industry, but really enjoys helping youth succeed raising their projects from the breeding program to the show ring. Steve believes that there's nothing better our youth can participate in than 4-H and FFA and showing livestock. He has been blessed to be surrounded by great people through his life that all in one way or another have been involved in livestock projects. He also appreciates the opportunity to be able to evaluate livestock and work with 4-H and FFA youth at county, district, state, and national shows. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Steve Sturts. Thank you very much. Steve, thanks for being here.
Test. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the National Western Stock Show for having me come out here and evaluate goats. Look forward to doing that tomorrow. Really look forward to working with the youth here today and setting up here in these classes with these heats. We're not going to talk a lot about what I'm looking for in these first heats because I think it gives the kids an advantage that are coming in the next heats. But I will say that showmanship is very subjective, much like judging is, and it's what I'm looking for. And it's just like I tell livestock judging kids, it's putting a set of criteria together and putting them in an order and having your most important things. And to me, when those kids get older, we maybe expect those things to be maybe fine-tuned and maybe to be a little bit more precise in what they do. But when it comes down to it, it is taking that criteria and put them in order and finding those things that I put an emphasis on and I think make a good showman. And so when we look at that, we're going to keep 3 from this heat for the next heat to come out here for our junior showmanship. I think that these kids have done an excellent job. They've really done a lot of things good. Sometimes maybe goats didn't cooperate quite as well. We have some of them maybe getting a little bit overstretched and a little too much on them. But I think as a whole, a really, really good set of junior showmen out here to compete in this heat. I think these kids need and deserve a round of applause for their efforts in this. I'm going to shake their hands on the way out. We'll release these and bring these back with the next heats. Okay, you 3.
The 3 that made it out of that heat that will be back in for champion and reserve champion junior showman is Cash Clark from Albany, Texas, Paisley Clark from Albany, Texas, and J.C. Collins from Kingsville, Texas. Now in the ring is Subclass B. Subclass B. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank our friends at Sunglow Feeds for sponsoring all of the junior market back tag numbers at the 2019 National Western. Sunglow Feed your potential.
Well, a real tough second heat, very competitive. We chose 3 out of this also. Again, when we look at the quality of showmen out here in this junior drive, I think very, very impressive all the way through. We have to get it down to some numbers where we can manage it. So we did things a little different this second round. The size of the ring, this pole being here and stuff made us change things up a little bit, but I think we had the same type idea and the same type concept through each class. I think that they all did a really good job. We're going to keep these 3 out here. They'll compete against the 3 we had in the first heat. Again, super job by these youngsters on the outside. We'll elaborate more on maybe what I'm looking for showmanship as we get down into the older groups, and hopefully you younger kids and you juniors will come back to the outside and watch and look coming in, watch what the seniors are doing, listen to my comments, and see if there's anything that you can improve on. And by all means, when the show's over tomorrow, if you have any questions about showmanship, please don't be afraid to ask me, because that's what it's about. It's about educating y'all and y'all learning and having a positive experience here. So congratulations to those 3. Let's give all these kids a round of applause for a nice job.
Mike, you want to shake my hand?
Thank you, folks. One more time, put your hands together for those exhibitors that are leaving. They did a great job. This is as we were just talking here in the booth, this is a national show, and these kids have come ready to go. They are impressive. So every one of them deserves a round of applause. They've done a good job. Now in are the 3 out of the first class, the 3 out of the second class, and they will be competing for champion and reserve champion junior market showmanship. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting a new tradition around the National Western Junior Market Goat Show. Thursday, January 17th, which is the day after the actual market show, the Grand and Reserve Grand Champion goats will go on display at the prestigious Denver Athletic Club. Similar to how the champion steers get displayed at the Brown Palace, the National Western Stock Show and the DAC the Denver Athletic Club look forward to this new tradition of creating Denver history together.
Well, what a great set of kids to come out here for junior showmanship. We get our top 6 out here and very competitive. Really appreciate the job they've done and that they do in the ring. Look forward to tomorrow and them coming out and competing actually in the classes. As I said earlier, it is subjective. It's what I'm looking for. We obviously, when we look at juniors, probably don't expect quite as much out of them as seniors. But when we look at showmanship, but I can tell you that these top-end kids can compete with most of the intermediates and seniors out there when they get out there and they show and they do the things that they do and they do them right. I think the most important thing for juniors is the fact that they get them stuck. They get them where they're firm and they're hard. They're good to the touch. And then I think from there it's everything that we look for in a senior. It's the legs being square. It's the smooth transition from one side of the animal to the other. It's the ring awareness. It's the eye contact. It's all of that thing bundled into one, and the one that does it the best. And this young lady really gets one stuck. When she gets one stuck, she knows where she's at. She knows where I'm at all times. She moves methodically and real nice as far as her transitions are concerned. She gives me plenty of time to see whatever view I'm looking at, and then as soon as I'm done, she's back to work getting him stuck again and getting him in the right place and doing whatever she needs to do to make him look good. I think it comes close between second and third. The young lady in second, I think, is a little smoother interactions, maybe has her goat driving forward just a little notch better when we look at it in comparison to the young lady in third. But both those young ladies do a really good job also of getting them stuck, and not only getting them stuck and hard, but getting those feet and legs placed real well. The young man in the drive, he does a nice job, always has his lamb, or goat, excuse me, firm. Really nice as far as touch and the way he has him presented that way. Once in a while gets off on the rear legs just a little bit, maybe not quite the polish that a couple of them above him have, but I think does a really nice job, and as he gets more ring experience, I think we'll just get better. We round out our top 5 with a young lady that probably pulls just a little more on the head than I'd like, maybe doesn't get quite the drive that the ones above her have, but has a really good ring present, really moves around the ring nicely with her goat, and I appreciate that. And then the young lady next, I'd like to just level that top out. Some of it's the goat, some of it may be the showing, but it's hard to evaluate him in comparison to these others with his top up like that, and sometimes your showmanship goat is sometimes the difference when the competition gets this tough. As we look at the kids around the outside and the heats, I'd like to say that they all do a nice job. Probably to me, some of them maybe didn't give me a front view like I'd like to see. Some of them maybe didn't get quite the move or have them look as good on the move. They may get them stuck real good from the side profile, but when we put them on the move, they didn't want to cooperate, didn't want to move quite as well and keep everything going. But again, a super set of junior kids. They've done an excellent job. Let's give them a round of applause for their efforts in this class.
Results of the junior showmanship. Your reserve champion is Piper Liska from Yuma, Arizona. And your champion is Jada Schroyer from DeGraff, Ohio. Congratulations, everyone that showed. In the ring now is the subclass A of the first intermediate. This is intermediate showmanship, subclass A. National Western owes a big thank you to our friends at Purina for sponsoring all of the webcasting and our renowned Media Scholar program. You can watch every show live at thenationalwestern.com. Purina, feed greatness.
1 2 2 2 1 2 2 2 2 2 1 1 2. Two one two two one two 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 one two 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 one. Shh. Shh.
Sullivan Supply Show University is trusted by champions nationwide. Thanks to them, all of the livestock shows are webcasted live through nationalwestern.com, and they sponsor our Livestock Media Scholar Program. Sullivan Supply, the innovative leader in livestock grooming supplies.
You can just keep it now. They brought me in. Perfect. Yes, sir. Well, again, an excellent set of showmen when we get our first heat of our intermediates out here. It's kind of one of those things you just got to find a cutoff point. I think that there's some that are real close to these four here as far as making the cut, but you get too many out here and we're going to have no reason to have heats. When I look at it again, it's what we're looking for today. We do have some goats that maybe aren't acting quite as well as maybe the kids would like, and it's hard to look past that when we have them over bracing or getting their tops down or not cooperating. And so when we look at the whole picture and the showmanship picture, it's about what they're bringing in today and how they're working today. And that's not the best scenario for some of them when that happens, but it happens. And so the only thing I can say is just, when you're picking your showmanship goat and when you come out for showmanship, you have to realize that's part of what happens in showmanship is sometimes you get the bad end of the deal with the goat not cooperating in a new ring or whatever it may be. So these kids have all done an excellent job. Again, I'm going to keep this time I'm going to keep four from this heat. These kids deserve a round of applause for their efforts in this intermediate showmanship heat.
One more time, folks. Put your hands together for those individuals that are leaving. They did a great job. Now in is Subclass B. Subclass B of the intermediate showman now coming into the ring. The National Western would like to thank our friends at Sunglow Feeds for sponsoring all of the junior market back tag numbers at the 2019 National Western Stock Show. Sunglow, feed your potential.
Well, in doing this in heats, you have to anticipate, or you can't anticipate, excuse me, what's going to come up in the next heats. But what you can do is evaluate what just went out in the 4 that just left, and then you put together in your mind how they kind of fit in with this group here. And we went ahead and took 5 out of this heat, because I think when I look at the 5 in here and I look at the 4 before, I think that we'd be maybe missing somebody that could compete from this heat in that other heat and would have been selected. And so to me, it's about taking that and putting all that into consideration. Again, it's what I'm looking for today. It's how the animals respond to you, and somewhat when they get out in the ring. Obviously, if you make one little bobble, it's not going to be the end of the world. You can recover and make it work. But we've got some animals that to me maybe are overdriving, getting their hock just out a little bit on them, maybe not quite as squared up. We've got some individuals that maybe not quite as good at ring awareness and ring savvy, for lack of a better way to say it. But I think a really, really good group of intermediate kids in this heat also. They've done an outstanding job. They've come out here. I appreciate the fact that they wanted to compete and come out here and give it a try. So let's give them a round of applause for their efforts in this class.
Next in the ring is Subclass C of the Intermediate Market Goat Showmanship. Subclass C now entering the ring. Upon completion of this class, champion and reserve champion will be selected, and then we will move into seniors. National Western owes a big thank you to our friends at Purina for sponsoring all the webcasting and our renowned Media Scholar program. You can watch every show live at nationalwestern.com. Purina, feed greatness.
This is for junior market goat exhibitors and their families. This year we are implementing a new tradition, I guess you could say. But on Thursday, January 17th, the Grand and Reserve Grand Champion goats will be going on display downtown. This sounds weird, but it's at the Denver Athletic Club, which is like a very prestigious, nice place here in Denver. So we are going to, a lot of you might have heard that the Grand Champion steers go on display at the Brown Palace, but this year the champion goats will go on display the day after the market show, so Thursday, January 17th, downtown at the Denver Athletic Club. If you happen to be the Grand or Reserve Grand Champion exhibitor and their family, we will be accommodating your stay and helping you make accommodations like that. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up. We are starting a new tradition with our champion goats.
Well, again, an excellent set of kids out here for intermediate showmen. In this heat, I think we've got 4 over here. When I compare to the other 4 and the other 5, I think they fit right nicely in with those other 9 individuals as far as putting together some good intermediate showmen. I think when you look at this group out here, there's 3 or 4 more that are just right there, maybe not quite the control of their animal on the brace, maybe a little fidgety, maybe a little bit jerky, for lack of a better way to say it, and their motions maybe not as fluent in the way that they do things, but a really, really tough set of kids, a really good set of showmen here. Again, I'm going to shake their hand on their way out. Let's congratulate them with a round of applause for their efforts here.
Next in the ring will be those that were selected out of subclass A, subclass B, and will come back in. Subclass C will come back in. This is for champion, intermediate, market goat showman.
And trying to find the words to start this off, I guess it just is extremely difficult when you get this many good showmen out here to just really be petty, for lack of a way to say it, and just really have to drill down and get to what my preferences are and what I like. And then when I think about this, how tough this intermediate group is, and I know I've got a senior group coming in here, I don't want to say too much to make it even harder on me when we come down the line. So I'm going to keep my comments brief. I hope you see that looking from the outside, I hope some of you juniors came back and watched this group of kids, and I hope you watched the intermediate kids. We excused a lot of showmen out of this ring in these heats that were excellent showmen and maybe just didn't have their day today. Maybe their animal was slipping and not getting a good footing. Maybe they weren't quite as polished today for whatever reason. But an excellent set of intermediate showmen here at the National Western Stock Show, and y'all can be very proud to be left in this ring. But even more so, it wouldn't be without everyone coming back and competing in those heats. It wouldn't be near as much fun and wouldn't have near as much meaning if we didn't have those kids all competing. So my hat's off to all of them in this intermediate showman and the junior showman, and I look forward to the senior showman, although I probably am the only one getting hot in here because it's been quite a job. Really good set of kids. Young lady we start off with, just I guess the one word that describes her is smooth. She's just smooth. Everything's just easy, fluent, just really nice movement. Doesn't get in too much of a hurry, but always gets it set up efficiently. Always knows where I'm at, always knows where she's going, just does an excellent job of all those things. And then you get over top, you get to the side, whatever view you look at, she gets him right, he handles right, and so on and so forth. I think the next best smooth job was the young man in second. He maybe not quite as smooth as the young lady that starts off, but he just real cool, real easy, moves around nicely, always has those legs set, always has that neck coming straight out of that shoulder, always has a really good profile. And then again, when you go handle him at the end, I don't know if you noticed when we had the 5 there, I kind of shoved my knee into him just a little bit. I don't, come off and kick him, but I shoved my knee in a little bit to see how much control they have. And all these kids up in the top 5 had really good control, but the 3 that we're starting off with, to me, had just a little bit more of a brace, had them a little bit tighter and a little bit better handling. Young lady in third is a recovery specialist, I'll call her. She probably had a goat that cooperated less than any goat in the top 5. At times she'd get the legs off, or the legs would get off, and she could recover when I moved. She didn't worry about recovering when I was there, which I appreciated, but as soon as I left, I'd look out of the side of my eye and she was recovering and she was getting that goat back right. She did an excellent job. She wasn't quite as smooth as the first 2 as far as putting those things together throughout the show, but when you talk about getting one right and then taking him and getting him right when she needed to, she gathered him up, got him together, just like right there was a perfect example. He just wanted to brace a little too much. He got a little bit. She gets him back. She gets him back in an efficient way, does an excellent job. She's got really good control of that goat. When you go to brace that goat, he handles perfectly. Young lady next sometimes got just a little stretched out, maybe not quite as top line didn't look quite right. Another one that does a nice job of bracing, not quite as tight, not quite as good a job as the 3 in front. Young man in 5th, I'd like to see him maybe get the back legs spread out just a little more. Does an excellent job of driving, maybe not quite as smooth on the side profile as the 4 that precede him today. And as we get down into the rest of the group, an excellent set of kids. They do an excellent job, maybe just not as refined in those points that we talked about. Again, it's been my pleasure to get to work with you guys. Excellent job in this class. Let's give them all a round of applause for their efforts.
Ladies and gentlemen, your reserve champion intermediate showman for the 2019 Stock Show is Luke Tucker from Santo, Texas, and your champion goes to Chancelyn Johnson, Potter Valley, California. Congratulations. Give them all a big round of applause. That was a Tough class. Tough class. Next in, Subclass A of the Senior Showman. Subclass A, Senior Showman, next in the ring. First call, Subclass B, Senior Showmanship. First call, Subclass B, Senior Showmanship. Sullivan Supply, Stock Show University, is trusted by champions nationwide. Thanks to them, all of the livestock shows are webcasted live through nationalwestern.com, and they sponsor our Livestock Media Scholar Program. Sullivan Supply, the innovative leader in livestock grooming supplies.
Well, again, an excellent set of showmen out here in our first heat of our senior showmanship. Tremendous amount of competition all day long, but as we get into these older groups, obviously a lot deeper set. It'd be real easy to go 6 or 7 in this and have more out here, but I think we need to have a point where we can move around the ring better and have a smaller group. So I commend these kids once again for coming out and competing. Tremendous set. Let's give them a round of applause as they leave the ring.
Now entering the ring is Subclass B. Subclass B of the senior showman entering the ring. Upon completion of Subclass B, those that were pulled out of A and those pulled out of B will come back in for champion and reserve. Just a note, tomorrow's market show will start at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is the beginning of the market show.
Well, another excellent job by an excellent set of senior kids. Appreciate them coming out and working through this heat. We're going to take these three into the next round with the four, that we got out of the first heat. Again, an excellent set of showmen. I appreciate the fact that they came, competed. That's what makes this show and the showmanship part of it very competitive, is the fact that we have all these youth coming out here and competing, whether it's juniors, intermediates, or seniors. I appreciate that effort that they put in. Again, maybe it's the little things that I'm looking for that these kids aren't quite doing to the level of the ones that I picked in the first heat. It is subjective. It is what I'm looking for today. Some of it is the animals sometimes just don't work with you, and when you get into this kind of competition and the animal doesn't work quite as well, wants to overbrace, wants to slide, those type things, it makes for it hard to get up into that top end. But an excellent group of kids. Let's give them a round of applause as they leave the ring on this heat.
In the ring at this time is those that were selected out of Subclass A and Subclass B in the Senior Showmanship Division. And our judge, Steve Sturts, will be selecting the champion and reserve champion Senior Showman. Ladies and gentlemen, while we have a minute, put your hands together for our judge, Steve Sturts. He's done a nice job. He'll be back tomorrow to sort through all these market animals. Thank you very much, Steve, for being here.
Well, another excellent set of showmen. When we put these two heats together, I think we've got a tremendous set, especially up here at the top, and I think that it's been indicative of what's happened all day as we've gotten out of the heats and gotten into the actual class and gotten those top end. Really is challenging and competitive, and I appreciate that. And again, I thank all of the kids who competed in showmanship for making it competitive and making it that way, because it takes that kind of effort to get to this point. When we look at our first, second, and third here, I think these three young ladies all do an excellent job. The one that wins it today, just somewhat like my intermediate, just smooth. Just everything was real easy, really nice in her movements. She was efficient about getting her animal set up. She was almost at one with it. When she moved her body and the goat moved, you didn't even notice she was there. Just real pleasant in her movements, really easy about her movements. Really does a good job of getting a brace. Always has those feet and legs in the right place when we come down to the end there. I think when you look at placement of legs, we have sometimes individuals that try to place legs too far apart, or they don't get them far enough apart, and they don't look at the body cavity of the animal that they're showing. And I think when you talk about leg placement for the animal, this young lady does as good as anybody. This animal's maybe not as wide as some of them out here, but she puts the legs where they're symmetrical with the body and they look good, and she gets them done before you even get around to the front. She anticipates your move. You go to the back, it's the same way. She doesn't stick them out too far wide, too far outside his body. They're not too narrow for his body cavity and the way he's made, and I think that she does an excellent job of that. And that was probably the finer thing she did there at the end. As we worked through these classes, everything we did was to get the views that I wanted to get and watch these individuals and how they moved and how they transitioned either from one side of their animal to the other, from a walk to a brace, from a brace to getting around front and showing me the front. When I go around to the front, the ones that give me the best look as far as their leg placement, the ones that give me enough time to look at that front end, the methodical movement they make from going from one side to the animal, that all makes a difference and all gets calculated when I'm looking at her showmanship and we get up here. And I think, as I said, this young lady did a nice job of all those things. One in second, she started out in the heat really good, and then her animal, her goat, wanted to kind of give her some problems there at the end, and man, she was working and got him going, and she came back in for showmanship here in the champion. And I told a girl that was third in the intermediate, she was kind of a recovery specialist. Well, if there's a recovery specialist in this class, it's the young lady in second, because she never gave up. She kept fighting. She kept knowing this goat's not liking it out here. He's not liking what's going on. And when you handle this goat, she always had him hard. When you went around to the back side of him, she always had him set up. At the end there, maybe the front legs could have been a little bit better, maybe not quite as smooth, and part of that was most likely because she was trying to compensate for her goat not wanting to act right. But an excellent job by that young lady throughout the heat and then into the drive. Young lady next does a really good job of bracing her goat. She always has that goat's neck at the top of his shoulder, always has him level out his top. She doesn't overbrace. Once in a while, she'll get his legs outside his body just a little bit as far as her setup. He's naturally really wide, and so some of that's a little bit of his doing, but they almost get a little too wide for his body. She does a nice job again on the brace. Not quite as smooth in her transitions from one side to the other. She's just a little more nervous, or a little more not as fluent, I guess, as the first two when we put her in the lineup with this top five. Next young lady does a nice job of moving her animal, moving it at a nice pace, really transitions from one side to the other real nicely. Once in a while, her animal would get just a little straight on his rear hock. She'd get him a little bit overdrove, not quite as symmetrical from the side when we looked at his placement of his legs at times in comparison to the three young ladies in front. And the next young lady does an excellent job of driving, maybe doesn't get quite the top line quite right sometimes, gets just a little bit, this goat gets just a little down in his blade and down in his chest floor naturally, and so when she gets to driving him, sometimes she needs to get him up just a tad bit without lifting him off the ground and keeping him on the shavings, and just sometimes not quite as good as the 4 in front. But I think excellent job overall of transitions and movement and those type things. The next 2 individuals do a really good job of driving. Maybe pull on the heads just a little more. Don't get them quite gathered up quite as well as the 5 we've got at the top. Again, it's been a very challenging set of showmen. I hope the juniors and intermediates stuck around to watch. I hope they've learned something. As I said, I don't mind answering questions when we get the show over with tomorrow. If you have any personal questions about the showmanship and what you could do different, hopefully I've explained it well enough. As I said, starting out, it's a set of criteria that I've put together, and putting that criteria in an order that's important to me. And I'm real pleased with all of our champions in all of our divisions. Again, these kids have done an awesome job all the way through the day, all of them. Let's give them a round of applause for their efforts here in the senior showmanship.
Results of senior showmanship. In reserve, your reserve champion senior showman is Jonah Stottlemyre from Luther, Oklahoma. And your champion is Taylor Parrish from Red Rock, Oklahoma. Congratulations. Again, folks, 9 o'clock in the morning, we will start the market show. Barn closes at 9, opens at 6 in the morning.